So today I'm going to present my revamped presentation of how to build a killer UX portfolio. So I did this presentation about 6 months ago, and I cannot tell you how many people actually reach out to me saying, I got the job, I follow all the advices, all the tips. And I want to make sure that Daniel and Lisa, they provide this presentation to you because I want you to have all those tips so you don't have to waste a lot of time, trying to make some notes and trying to capture everything. So just an intro about myself. I was born in Brazil, so my first language is Portuguese. I learned English with Google. I know some people know that. I got my first job as a UX designer, and all I could present on my interview was my images, right? I just had basically a portfolio that I was showing, this, that. I couldn't say much. And then the position was split in two, and I got the job to do things, and the other person got the job to actually be the voice, to say the things. And then eventually, the language just kicked in. I don't know any of the rules in English. I just know when something doesn't sound right. But basically, searching on Google, copy and pasting, that's how I learned the language when I moved to the USA in 2006. So I went to architecture school. I have a passion for filming and photography, just like some of you. And I wish to be a better storyteller and a better leader too. So if you have any tips for me after this presentation, I would love to hear. So just a fun fact about myself, that was my main transportation method until I was about 10 years old. So we lived in a farm in a city, a very small city in Brazil. So yeah, horse carriages and cow carriages. So one thing that I'm really passionate about is kids' causes, right? So I'm an active member of Women in Leadership. So I participate in a lot of the events that Ultimate and all the companies they provide, like Kids in Distress, You Go Girl, Pace Centers for Girls, PRJ Foundation, when I was at Citrix. And raise your hand if you are on the project.kids here at Ironhack. Yeah, my peeps. So yeah, we're just passionate about building great things for people, and I'm really passionate about this project now, working with some members of the Ironhack. So I'm also considered an innovator, right? I really love to innovate, so anything that you can imagine. Innovate the process. We created at Ultimate Light Starters, which is a process to build feature sprints, and I see Juan is over there, so he's familiar with that. I also, when I was 20, I created a website service, right, to build resumes online. The internet was just coming out in Brazil. So yeah, I can't help it. It's just something that it just comes to me all the time. I see a gap and I need to build it. I cannot just watch it. I want to create things, to solve a problem. And my application at Citrix ended up to be on the cover of the Fast Company as one of the best applications. I don't know how, because it was just like me and a couple of developers. Yeah, but it's just like, I think it's more, it's a lot of the enthusiasm, right? When you see someone trying to solve a problem and really bringing that passion and enthusiasm, I think things tend to happen in a good way. So yeah, so I'm a UX, but also an innovator, I would say. So I want to talk about you, not me. Why creating a UX portfolio? So that's my first question to you. And I will play, if it's possible. Oh. It's okay. It's just like, it's a video that I wanted to make a connection with James Bond. So, here, presentation mode again. So, what learnings can we get from James Bond to build a killer UX portfolio? So, the video just showed some, images and actions. James Bond has all these gadgets, right? And there was like a very unexpected ending, right? There was always a surprise element. So I see a lot of connection with that. When you're going to find a job of something that you really, really have a passion, not just work, right? Like a calling, something that you really want, I go ready to war. Like I go to win. So that's what I want you to think about that. James Bond, right? He did the job he was hired for. He showed his unique personality, so that's why, it keeps alive. Years goes by, and there's always like new movies of the same thing over and over again, changing the actors, but it's still alive. He speaks the common people, the way that people talk. He doesn't speak like complicated things. He doesn't, have like a very complicated vocabulary, but so he speaks the folks' language. And he always planned ahead. He knew exactly what to do and which tools to use for the right job, to do the job. And the surprising element, right? So we always see those unexpected endings with James Bond. So how can you surprise the employer with a very, on the interview process, for example, with something that is completely unexpected? This formula worked for me, and everyone that I talk to, it works every time, and I will show exactly what I mean by that. So the portfolio is actually part of the journey, right? When you're applying for the job, if you receive an email from the recruiter, or if you're just browsing candidates, you're going to end up looking at the portfolio, because the resume talks a little bit about you, your accomplishments, your responsibilities, but the portfolio is really where, for us designers, where your work is at, and you want to have a feel of what the candidate has to offer. So when you have the phone interview, the people that are going to be interviewing you is always going to see your portfolio too. When you go to the on-site interview, that's when you can bring that element of surprise, and the portfolio is going to come into place as well. And when you're receiving the offer, if there are other people revising your resume, there's a committee or something, they're going to also look at your portfolio. So the portfolio is present, throughout the journey. It doesn't matter where you are, the portfolio is always going to be present. And we know how to build beautiful portfolios, right? Because we know as designers that beauty sells. But just having a collection of beautiful images is not really going to, get you the job. Because the beautiful image is going to, tell that you are great Photoshopper, but it's not really going to tell how you think, how is it like to work with you, and if you can consistently, do a good job. So what the first advice I have for you is show the portfolio, right, is an opportunity to show your skills, your work style, your personality. Show that you are a great thinker, not just a great Photoshopper, and show what's unique about you. A lot of people that are going to submit the resumes in the portfolios, they're going to try to say the same things that you're saying. They're going to talk about the personas and the journeys and everything. What is unique about you, the sea of candidates? What makes you different? So you need to know what color is your parachute, right? Like, it's hard for you to try to fit into a position that is not really for you. So if you understand your shape, your color, your passions, it's much easier, because that's going to show through when you're interviewing, with the team or with the employer, or even talking to the recruiter. So understanding your skills is very important. And I put down like some of the core skills that everybody knows, right? Information architecture, user research, visual design, information design, interaction, fast interaction, copywriting, editing. But working for enterprise, I noticed other different set of skills, which is development methods, right? How can you align your work as a designer with the frameworks, Agile, Kanban, and other frameworks that are used, sprints? Design to development documentation, how can you document your work, like using the personas and all those things, like documenting your design to the developers. Looking at analytics, right? How can you, make sense of data and helping the data, using the data, right, leveraging the data to make smart decisions on your design. Ethnography, going directly to the customer location, just like Aaron was saying, like, it doesn't matter what they say, right, and what they do might be something completely different. So going there and watching in action what customers are doing is going to bring a lot of insights for your design. Using social networks without taking away the main core functionality. Marketing, pitching your ideas to whoever is going to make the decision. Using technology. So today, like, it's very hard for designer not to care about technology. You need to know your constraints, right? What is possible, because if you keep offering solutions that is not possible, not feasible, right? So that understanding of technology is super important. the return of investment, what is the value of what you are designing. Having business knowledge, right, the triad, design, business, and technology, that's super important, right? Understanding where the business is going, what is the vision, and how you can, accomplish that business vision with your design. In having domain knowledge. So, for example, us at Ultimate in HR, we have multiple domains. We have onboarding, recruiting, pay. So whatever domain you're at, you need to be good at it. You need to understand the domain. Otherwise, all you're just producing is design with no purpose, right? You need to understand and speak the same language as everyone else. So these are the enterprise UX skills that are very important if you're looking for a job, in companies, there are more like enterprise environments. So let's talk about how hiring managers review UX portfolios. So it starts with the resume, right? Because that's the first piece that you're going to receive from the recruiter. So first, we look, how many years of experience do you have? Do you have any formal design education? Which companies can I recognize on that resume? So can I spot something that is like, oh, that person worked for that company? That's interesting too. And how do you position yourself? Are you more like a visual designer? Are they going to be more like interaction designer? You try to fit the candidate in a bucket so you can identify if that candidate is aligned with what you need in your organization at that moment. So are any job titles overstated? So I saw that happen, over the time. Like, for example, you work for a startup, and now you are the vice president of the startup, right? You are the super, like you have those titles that almost seems like intimidating, and then for the recruiter, they might think like, oh, this is a position that the person is looking for, but he's like very higher, so I don't know if they're gonna be happy being hired just as a UX designer. So be careful with those positions too, because I've seen that like happening over and over again. You are the vice president of user experience in a company that's just you and 3 other people. So you can tweak those positions so it reflects what you're looking for. So then, after looking at the resume, they're going to look at your portfolio, right? So did they treat all the designs as a problem, right? Or did you just upload the images? You didn't talk about what you were solving, what was the problem. So that's super important, right? If you just have a bunch of images, think about like a dating site, right? If you go to a dating site profile, if you just put all your pictures, at the beach and all that, it's going to be like, oh, what is it like to, live with this person or date this person? I need to know a little bit more about your personality rather than just, the looks. So is it well designed? Did you build it yourself? If you don't feel confident enough to build the portfolio yourself, that's okay, because if you build it, you have to do it right. You have to make sure it's responsive, that is well designed, because that's going to, they're going to be judging you based on what they see, right? Can I navigate on that site easily, right? Can I go from one place to another without getting confused? Because again, if you're working as a user experience, they're going to be judging you from that moment, right? The navigation is in place. Can I, get out of here and easily go to other places? So yeah, make sure that if you build it yourself, you're not using any template, you do it right. Did they understand if and why the solution was successful? So that outcome, and I will talk a little bit more about the story that you will tell on your portfolio, but if the outcome was successful or not, right? So what was the outcome of everything that you did? That's very important also to see on a portfolio when you are a hiring manager. And what was the contribution as part of a bigger team? How are you, how do you work with other folks, right? Are you more like a lonely wolf working isolated, or are you more like a person that can work with anyone and, collaborate and, give your contribution as part of the team? So like I was saying, we really try to imagine you in different buckets, right? Is this a student, a new graduate? Is this a visual UI designer, right? Even though you can call it UX, but your portfolio is actually going to tell a little bit more who this person is. Is it more like a web designer with a lot of front-end experience? And is it experienced UX designer? So all these, there's nothing wrong with those buckets. It's just like for that moment that I'm looking for a person, which bucket am I more like, driven to get someone? If I'm looking for someone that is more experienced, right, I will probably go to that bucket. But if it's okay for us to mentor someone that is just starting, so the student, new graduate, a bucket would be fine too. But that's what we think, like we try to fit that person into the different categories of designers. So what skills do I need? That's exactly our assessment as a company. Do I need someone that has, some research skills, some product design skills, copywriting, interaction design? Again, depending on the situation, those skills can change, those needs can change, right? So according to Jared Spool, right, today the best teams have generalists with experience and a level of knowledge on par with the top specialists. So there is a lot of also debate about being a generalist or specialized. So now it's time to make a decision, right? So should I interview this candidate, right? So that's the final decision that you have to make based on everything that, that I saw on the resume and on the portfolio. So building the portfolio is basically, like I said, like telling a story, right? So all the stories, they start with a beginning, right? The characters, the stage are introduced. Then you have the rising action when the main character faces a series of conflicts. And I will tell how you translate that to our word. And then you go to the climax. What was the most important part of the story, and what did we learn with that outcome? And then the following actions, right, the events leading to the end of the story, and the outcome, the resolution, that's the end of the story. So I tried to translate that to Cinderella Story. So Cinderella, she lived with like the awful, evil sisters, right? Then she gets the ball invite, and she makes the clothes, and then she goes to the ball and dances with the prince. Oh no, she has to go. And then she goes back to the life that she had, not so bad as before, right? Because now she experienced something that was better than living with the sisters. And then at the end, the outcome, right? She finds the prince finds her, and they live happily ever after. So translating that to our UX world, right? Setting up, what was the company you worked for? What was your role, right? Were you part of the team? Did you do that by yourself? Were you alone? Or it was how many people you had in your team? And what process did you use? That's super important, right? I want to understand what is your thought process, what is your design process. Then we have the rising action. What was the problem you were trying to solve? What limitations you had? Did you collaborate with others? The climax, how did you make those design decisions? Did you offer any options, or did you just came up with one option? Where did you land and why? And then the following actions, right? Did you measure the success? Was it a success, or was it a failure? Did you achieve your goals? In the resolution, what did you learn? It's totally fine, to show your failures, because by showing your failures, you show what you learned. That's totally fine. It actually is going to show a little bit more about your character, rather than saying, oh, everything I did was successful. So it's very good that you actually show some failures too. So I found 8 tips on the internet that are very useful to build UX portfolios, and I try to represent them here. So the number 1 tip, case studies, right? The case studies are crucial. You don't need to make everything case studies, but at least, pick some of the pieces on your portfolio, like let's say 3 or 4 pieces, and turn them into case studies. Explain each one of those cases on that, story format that I presented. If you have other stories to tell, that's okay to have more like a description, a short description, and leave the reader wanting to learn more. So that's when you're going to bring you to the interview, right? You're going to leave them with that curiosity. Oh, I want to learn more about that story. But choose some case studies to really go deep, right, and explain, each of the cases in a compelling story, right? Don't make it like huge, but it's always talk about, in the first person, not like as a third person talking about the story, but you telling the story. So when you present a case that has a lot of words that you notice that it's becoming very big, think also how you can replace those words with visuals, right? Maybe like a full page of a story could be easily replaced with a journey, for example. So think about those opportunities where you can replace words also with visuals, right? Personas, journey maps, sketches, something that would help you tell the story. So tip number 2, diversify or specialize. So unless you are a student, just studying, and that's totally okay because I was a student too when I moved to the US. I didn't have anything on my portfolio, and the things that I had didn't matter at all into the UX world. So I went to UCLA, I did an extension of user experience there, and studying user experience, I developed my portfolio. I just look at, on the website, crappy experiences that I could make it better, just like Yahoo Answers. And I just redesigned the whole thing. I can never work for Yahoo, but I wanted to build an experience that was better than the one I was, having. And then it's, I got some other pieces on my portfolio of Toyota. I never worked for Toyota again, but I found an opportunity to redesign something that I didn't feel that they were doing a good job. And I also put on my portfolio. And I heard from my first employer that that's why they hired me, because they saw that piece of design, and because they work with car manufacturers, they work with Nissan and Infiniti, they wanted to bring some folks that had experience with cars. I had no experience, I just had that piece in my portfolio. So again, if you don't have a lot, make up stuff, just like we are doing, .kids. We don't even know if this is going to become a real project or not, but we had this idea. We thought we were going to be solving a good problem. It was a good problem to solve, improving the foster care experience. It doesn't matter if it's going to become real or not. We're going to have that thought process. We're going to show the design process that we followed. If it was successful or not, we have a story to tell, right? So if you don't have a lot of things on your portfolio and you think, I'm not going to get hired because of that, come up with something. I'm sure there's lots of problems out there that you can solve, just like we found one. So like I was saying, there's a lot of debate, diversify or specialize. If you're really passionate about a specific area of user experience, I would say specialize, right? If you don't know yet what you want, you can just go general in your portfolio, and then you figure out with time. An example, when I was studying, I wasn't very good in UI design. I have a sister that she rocked as a UI designer, and I was more like the architect because I went to architecture school. So until I didn't feel ready to show UI design, I didn't put those things on my portfolio because people are going to judge you for that, right? If you are not really ready to be a full stack designer, just show your best work. If UI is not your best work yet, just don't put it there. That would be my advice, and that's how it worked for me. After you feel a little bit more comfortable with the things that you don't know yet, then you start introducing those things on your portfolio. Make sense? So tip number 3, showcase real work, including your failures. So I talked a little bit about that, right? Showing everything that you did great and everything that was amazing is not real, right? It's not real world. I'm sure we all had our failures too. So show those failures and show how you learn from them. It's actually more important than making it look like, the world was perfect and everything that you did, you were completely rocked. So don't be afraid to show the failures and explain what you learned. And if you had the chance to do it over again, what you could do to make it better or to overcome those challenges that you had. Tip number 4, less design exercises, more in-depth case studies. So I'm sure we all have those typography posters that we did, when we started design, when we are so proud of them, and the concerts, invitations we did. Just make sure if you're going to be presenting those, if you turn them into case studies, show what the problem was, and how did you solve with your design. Just don't put them there. Just to show, just as a picture, right? As an image that has no context. If you're searching for a UX designer, you want to see a little bit more than just the looks. You want to see how that person thinks, right? How is it like to work with you? And if you just have the images, it's not going to really tell much. Tip number 5, talk about goals and results. So that's super important, right? So after you presented your problem, how you solved it, the challenges, right, and how you solve it, what was the result? Was the project implemented, right? What was the ROI? Did you measure success, right? Was there any output from the customers or from the research about what you built? So if you have anything like that, make sure you talk on your case studies. And even if you don't have all the numbers that you measured, there's just anything that will give you an idea what was the outcome of that project. Make it easy to navigate. We talked about that too. And make sure that it's responsive, so you have, both, desktop and mobile experiences in place. And then be sincere and straight to the point. I love this tip because a lot of people write that way. Dear hiring manager, I formally submit my resume. It's just like everybody talks about that. This is like a template, right? It doesn't show who you are. I even sometimes for recruiters or even people at company, I sign with smiles instead of sincerely. It's just like be yourself and don't be like so, computer or template. Get out of that place because we need to understand who you are as a person. And if you're just writing like everyone else, we will have no idea who what are unique about what is unique about you, and your personality is not going to show up. So show when you see like, hi Emily, I'm passionate about education, blah blah blah. Oh, that's different, right? It looks like someone real in writing a more human way is talking to you. So passion really matters. To me, that's my favorite, because if someone hired me without knowing the language, I can tell you, all you guys, can do anything. Because if you are enthusiastic, if you have a passion about your craft, there's nothing that can replace, when someone sees you like with the eyes shining with enthusiasm. Nobody can say no to you, really. So I really think that even if you're not ready yet, but you have that passion, it's going to show through, and you're going to have the opportunity. I had the chance to hire someone that was more experienced, and then another person, right, that was not as experienced, but I had the chance to mentor because of that passion, because I saw that the person did all the homework and he wanted so much the job. I opted actually to hire this other person than the person that was completely ready. It was like a very experienced UX designer. So this is very important. Like, you can follow all the tips you want, but if you go there to the interview, if you go to the portfolio, if I don't see that passion, the hiring managers, they can see, they can sense when the passion is not there, from your writing, from the way that you carefully put your portfolio together. So passion is not only when you go to the interview, from all steps in the process, from that first email that you write, make sure that you show your passion. So a lot of tools that you can build, right? Adobe Portfolio, Behance, Squarespace. I built mine on Squarespace, and I know a lot of folks that did that too, but you can also build yourself, right? But just be careful. If you're building yourself, you have that responsibility to test everything and make sure everything, looks good, because, there is like the quick ways using templates, but you can also customize and make it your own. Or you can start from scratch and then, impress the hiring manager saying, hey, I built it myself. If the position, requires, for example, some knowledge of coding, right? But if the position is not about, it doesn't really matter about your front-end skills, then it doesn't really matter what you're going to be, the tool you're going to be using. Just make sure it has a good experience and, like navigation and all that. And the flow of things, right? Like just, following that story format. And there's a lot of places where you can get inspired. Like, I found Best Folios a great place, and I actually interviewed a few folks from Best Folios. And I will show you some examples of the people I talked to and the advices that they had for us. So the common portfolio mistakes. First of all, the story is not compelling. You just don't feel it. Like I was saying, that passion is not there. The story is like blah, blah, blah. It's boring, right? Don't make your story boring. Make it interesting, right? Remember Cinderella Story. The process is not clear, right? And I don't understand what is your design process, how you came from point A to point B, what happened in between. Some people say like, oh, but I already finished the design, I didn't do all these other steps. Reverse engineer your design and put all those things there. Or I built the final design, okay, just go back, do your sketches, do the wireframes, and it's okay, now you show your final design, but show that flow, right? The process that you took. You can detect the candidate's personality. That happens a lot, right? I'm not saying like if you don't feel comfortable using your picture. I personally love having like the picture there, like a lifestyle picture, just to give a little bit of an idea what type of person you are. But if you don't feel comfortable with that, that's okay. But show your personality in other ways, right? In your story, the way you write, the way you explain the problem. And also, like, the common mistake is that the story doesn't really align with what the company cares about. So that happened a lot too. So I had folks also that I helped, revising the resume, that he didn't have any enterprise work. And he wanted to get a work, in an enterprise company. And I said, you have the work of like work with small companies, with realtors. It's not gonna be very like competitive, right? Because other people are gonna show the portfolio, they will have that experience. So here's what I would do. Build a case for the company you are interviewing for. Even if you, for example, if you're interviewing for Citrix, when you talk to the person, right, to the recruiter, and that tip really worked, he got the job. Not at Citrix, but at Oatmeat. But he did exactly the same formula. When you're talking to the recruiter, you're going to understand what the problem is, right? You're going to understand what we are looking for and which domain he's going to be working on, and then ask the question, what's keeping you up at night? Oh, it's that support experience. We have too many tickets. Whatever they say, write that down. When you come to the interview, show that solution, whatever it is. I did that on my interview too. I do that all the time. When the person tells me, show me your portfolio, I say, actually, I'm going to present something that I did for you, right? I went to one of your customers, I interviewed them. I have actually a video that talks about the problem he was having. I played the video, and this is where I came up. And then I show my sketches, not really high definitions or anything. I just wanted to show that I have a process of thinking about design, that I'm showing a real problem that his customer is having. So if you don't have a lot on your portfolio, right, if the portfolio that you have doesn't really align with the company that you're trying to get the job, do something for them. So I will tell you, I cannot tell you enough how this formula works. And if you are here now and you follow this advice, I will tell you, I'm just going to wait for the email saying, I got the job, I follow your advice. So, yeah, and another point, the last point is missing the delight factor, right? If the solution you are giving is boring, right? You have to delight, right, the user. You come up with a solution that is really, it doesn't need to be, like I said, high definition, but come up with a solution that is delightful, that makes you want to get more of that person, right? You just gave them a little bit, like a snack of what you can give to them as a whole person, right? So given that, just enough for, so the company understands what type of, professional you are, and that you can give a lot more to the, to the table. So some statistics, right, working with recruiting, and also getting some statistics out there. We know that the hiring manager, the recruiters, they usually take 6 to 30 seconds looking if they're going to decide to hire you or not actually hire you, to call you or not. So that's really, 6 seconds is like, done. So how can you actually impact, right, in 6 seconds only? So that's for the resume, right? Because if I don't see something on the resume that is aligned with what I'm looking for, I'm not going to even go to the portfolio. So between you and the interview, it's the resume is the first step. 78% of recruiters, they find the best candidates via referrals. So make sure you have, a lot of connections, I would say. I would say like most of the jobs that I found was through connections. Actually, if you have a very good network of people, you might not even need a portfolio because they're already going to know your work. They know that you're amazing. They're just going to call you right in. But if you're not in that situation yet, build your connections, make sure you make friends along the way, because it's funny because here in Florida, right in South Florida, we end up working with like a lot of the people that we know, right? And if you don't do a good job, if you're not a good team player in one company, it's going to go around. It always goes around. And the person is going to know, oh, I worked with this person before. He's not a good team player. Oh, I'm not going to even interview the person. I cannot tell you how many times that happened. I feel bad because I'm sure, oh, the person might have changed. I'm sure he's a good guy. No. But it really, like, you cause a bad impression, and then it's going to, eventually it's going to go around again. So make sure you treat everyone nicely. If you need to leave in a good tone, right? And it's because you're going to need those referrals. 78% is a big number. 92% of recruiters, they use social media. 87% using LinkedIn. That's huge, right? It's a big number. So make sure the LinkedIn profile is always updated. Every time I do something, oh, I'm going to update my LinkedIn. Even though I have a job, I'm always, remembering, to update the LinkedIn, because when you need, if you leave everything for, you're going to forget. You're going to forget all those things, all those projects you worked. So make sure you always have that LinkedIn update. And I will talk about, LinkedIn tips here. So I'm sure like most of you do that, right? Just search your name. Just make sure the things that will show up, right? I have some friends, they post like interesting pictures on Facebook, and then they go to look for a job, and like, oh, that guy in the mountain, not with like the clothes, and just take care of your image, right? Not just LinkedIn, everything. Like search for yourself and see what shows up. Look at your keywords, right? And make sure those keywords are in your title, headline, and all that. And then you might wonder, how do I find those keywords? I will show you a tool here, and that's going to be easy for you to make sure that your keywords are aligned with the actual job you're looking for. Get a recommendation for each position. That's very important. So each position, don't leave like until you don't even talk to that person anymore 10 years from now. Always make sure that you get, the recommendations for each job as you go. Include a professional photo, not that photo that you had like 20 years ago, that you look really sharp. So many resumes, they bypass, many recruiters, they bypass resumes that don't have picture at all. Make sure you have a picture there. It's interesting, but it's statistics. Get more visibility attaching files and videos, your awards, bonus acknowledgements, and letter of recommendations. I would tell you the best kept secret of LinkedIn: awards. I participate in every freaking competition of design. I don't do that because I want to win an award, because I really love it, but every time I put an award on my portfolio, invitations, they start coming. Facebook, Netflix, Google, Amazon, it's incredible. I will tell you as a fact. And I know somebody wrote to me when I gave this talk at Ultimate, and she put the awards on the resume, and she was called from Google 15 days after. Awards, participate. If it's a competition on your street, it doesn't matter. Participate on competitions. Make sure you do a good job so you can, be classified, and put that on your LinkedIn. This is a very good way that companies find to, almost like separate you from the whole crowd. And use an appropriate email address. I've seen some people using like, girl having fun at the beach at hotmail.com. Don't do that. So that's the tool that I use if I'm looking for a job and I want to understand how my resume, how my words are aligned with the job. This is a miracle. You're going to put the job, and then they will look at the LinkedIn or the resume, and they're going to make the match, and they will see exactly what is missing from your resume and the job posting. So you can align that. Network. I have it, I said it enough. resume basics, right? The one-page resume is gone. Unless you are a beginner, you can, if you need 3 pages, do it in 3 pages. Use chronological format. Don't rewrite the job description. A lot of people do that. Don't rewrite everything that is there, copy and paste and make it yours. People notice that. Remove anything that happened like 20 years ago. It doesn't really matter now. So all the old and redundant information, you can leave it out. Avoid long sentences. Use bullet lists instead of like long sentences. If you have a connection with your hobby, if you think it's going to be aligned with the job, you can include it. And make sure you proofread it. I cannot stress it enough. Proofread it. Send to someone. Even if you are like an English, major, I always ask someone to take a look at your resume, because if you see that mistake, it really goes against you. So we don't want that to happen. You did all this effort because of that little word. And then the resume now, there's a lot of technology around the resumes, so don't reinvent the wheel. If you put your resume like in a very different format, the ATS systems, the application tracking systems, they're not going to be able to see your resume. Leave all your creativity for your portfolio, not on your resume. Common mistakes: spelling the employer's name wrong, referring to the wrong employer. You have all these templates, right? You're working a lot on your, finding the job, and then suddenly you end up sending the letter to the wrong employer, or forgot to change the name over there. Interesting, the third most common mistake is the past of lead, right? Led, the incorrect spelling and grammar. Incorrect formatting, you forgot to include the name of the company and you have in brackets, enter company name. That happens too. Punctuation mistakes, resume is the exact copy of the job description. People notice that. Cover letter tips, just one thing that I would tell you. Cover letter, people would say, oh, it's going to differentiate you from the crowd. A lot of people don't even look at those anymore. Make sure you have on your email that passion and what you want. Because if they don't open the cover letter, it's still okay, because you're going to have all that information on your email. So I would say if you have to pick one, I would ditch the cover letter. I would focus on writing a compelling story on your email, right, and having your portfolio and resume associated with that. But some people say that cover letter, the hiring managers, some people still read it. I would prefer to read on the actual email. It's already in front of you, right? Don't forget, be conservative with the resume and leave all the creativity to your portfolio. And then I have links with the portfolios that are really interesting for you to take a look. Those are the best folios, and I talked to most of those folks. And then I will try to explain in 4 minutes my experience with Google. So I had a great experience with Google. I put my journey here. I just wanted to show you how the portfolio, was important for that interview process. So it doesn't really matter who I talked to, right? But the portfolio was always present, right? When I was applying for the job, when I received an email from LinkedIn, and the recruiter said, your portfolio is not ready yet. Do this, do that, improve this, improve that. They didn't send the portfolio to the hiring manager until the portfolio was 100% perfect. That person, that recruiter, she worked almost as a consultant. She wanted you to succeed. So I thought it was very interesting, the process that they want you to, to actually get the job. It's actually, there is 24. Being hired by Google is 25 times harder than getting a position, spot at Harvard, actually. So it's a really hard process, but you feel along the way that they really want you to succeed, and they give you all the tips on the portfolio to succeed, which is very similar to the tips that I'm giving you guys right now. So if you follow those tips, these are the portfolio that I created. You guys can check it out, martaguerra.com. So you can get some of those tips there. So you have all the top secrets, right? It's all about you now going there and try them, and I will tell you, do them, and you're going to watch the response rate, go up, and then you will tell me. I would love to hear from all of you. Thank you.
Do you guys want to do some Q&A? That was great. Thank you. So we have we can take one question. Does anyone have a question? I know she gave a lot of tips, which was great, and we'll be sending this deck out to you guys so you can implement all the tips. But was there any questions, or we can always, Marta will be here for lunch too, so you can always pick her brain then. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like anyone can have this presentation. You can ask Daniel or Lisa.
Yep. And we have just one in the back, so we'll get this one real quick.
Okay, this is a real amateur question, but I'm just wondering, like for a lot of us trying to get into the user design, how important is it for us to actually have those skills working with Photoshop and being able to do that front-end design?
Yeah, like the front-end design, I see, like, it depends on the company, right? At Ultimate, we like to hire full-stack designers, someone that can, do the actual work of, gathering everyone on the table, understanding the problem, running design sprints, doing wireframes, and go until the final design. It depends on the company. I would say, like, at Citrix, for example, it wasn't that important because we had a visual designer working with visuals and, taking everything that the UX would do and then, turning them into high definitions designs and handing that to the development. So if you want to work for enterprise, I would say definitely important, right? To have the understanding of technology, user experience, design. I know it's a lot, but that happens with time. First you can, find a job, for example, just doing UX piece, and then, little by little you start tapping into the UI world. So, and like for me, for example, some of the things that I want to improve is the, technology and the coding skills that I don't have, much yet. So it really depends on the company. For corporation, I would say full stack. You can do anything from sketches to high definitions. And Photoshop, a lot of people are not using that anymore for high defs. We are using a lot Sketch. I don't know if you guys agree, but that's what I hear, from folks, that Sketch really, has taken like a big, a piece of business from Photoshop.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Marta. That was great.